Hello guys, and welcome to another episode of my lecture. On today's episode, we will be talking about the third exception to the indoor management rule. And what is the third exception? The third exception is the lack of knowledge of the content of the memorandum and articles, where one isn't aware of the existence of a power in a company's articles or memorandum. He can rely on the rule to validate the transaction. The third exception appears to be a mere restatement of the negative operation of the doctrine of constructive notice. The rationale is that where a person dealing with a company is not aware of the existence of a power in the company's articles or memorandum of association, he would not subsequently make use of this unknown power so as to validate the transaction. In the case of AJAYI versus Lagos City Council, the fact is that the articles allowed power to be delegated to directors of company. The plaintiff entered into the contract with the director who had no power to do so. The plaintiff wasn't aware of the delegation of powers in article, and the court held that he could not rely on those articles conferring ostensible and apparent authority. The judgment of the court was that the plaintiff, who had no knowledge of the articles, could not rely on those articles as conferring ostensible or apparent authority on the directors, and the company was not stopped from establishing that there was no authority in the director to enter into the contract or agreement with the plaintiff on behalf of the company. The company thus was not stopped from establishing that the director had no authority to contract with the plaintiff. Now, this is one of the bad fruits of constructive notice. Why? Because in this case, the plaintiff knew that director can enter a contract, but he did not know that for the director to be able to enter the contract, there must have been a delegation. The rule is that the person that is relying on the memo and articles must know, first of all, that the person has the power to do it. Do you understand? And must also know the conditions. What the person doesn't need to know is the fact that those conditions have been carried out. But the person must know that those conditions in fact exist. According to AJAYI versus Lagos City Council, the court held not only must you know that the person that you are contracting with has the power, you must also know the conditions for that person to be able to exercise that power. In this case, the condition for the director to be able to exercise the power is that it must have been delegated from the board. The person relying on the articles in this case did not know that there should be a delegation. In fact, it is not a question of whether or not the board has delegated. It's a question of whether or not the third party that is relying knows that there should have been a delegation. If you did not know, then this rule would not apply on you. Do you understand? So now we go to our fourth exception in my next video. See you in next class.